Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, my single solitary viewer, and welcome back to NHL 2020. The Quebec City Assassins franchise, the Double Butts, have been on an upward trajectory at least since January, February. And we're no longer a team that plays for 500. Now the team is basically sitting in the final qualification spot to make the playoffs, position number 8 of their conference. So they're playoff bounds for now. So what I got to do is keep the ship going in that direction, and the team will make the playoffs on their first year. But what I want to do is check the contracts and see if I can keep all my assets, because we're building a new franchise and it's important to not lose assets. As you can see, under the X column, there's one player who does not want a contract extension. That's Edmondson. And so with the trade deadline looming, I want to trade him. I've seen two things. Jake Gardiner of the Hurricanes on the trading block, and Carey Price of the Montreal Canadiens is out with an MCL sprain for 8 weeks. That means the Habs are going to start losing. And so I'm thinking I want their first pick. So as the trade deadline comes along and the team keeps on winning, this time against the Blue Jackets, remember, we do have their first pick, so that's an important win. We want to be sure to improve the team, but now Carolina has just made a trade, and they've traded Jordan Stahl, the younger brother of my Eric Stahl. And now it looks like they may have changed their trading block, and the defenseman that was on it, that I wanted, is no longer there. Jake Gardiner would have been an upgrade over Edmondson. I would have had to pay a premium probably for him, but when the player is on the trade block, the team is, willing to, he's no longer on the trading block. The team is willing to kind of sell him at a good price, if you will. And I have to remember, Carey Price is injured, so if I can't get a defenseman from Carolina, I'm going to try and get Sharrett and try to get the Canadiens' first round pick at the same time and net 2 wins here. Of course, it's got to be done for the right price. And now I'm trying to cheap them out with Philly's first pick, and of course, that's rejected. But eventually I'm adding little prospects and the second round pick of the Capitals too, and now I'm starting to offer quite a lot here, actually more than I'm willing. If you look at the trade value bars at the bottom, I'm basically offering too much, and I realize that I won't be getting their first pick. It's just not going to be happening. What I can is do a slight improvement, transform a 5th round pick into a 4th round pick, and that's roughly what I'm going to be able to do, because Sharrett is actually not that bad. He's got a bit of an expensive contract because the game undervalues him as a player. He's actually better IRL than the game lets on. There's a lot of that happening in NHL 2020. Of course, a few players that are overvalued, a few players that are undervalued. Of course, those opinions are subjective. But usually what I do at least 1 week before the trade deadline, but right now we're nose onto the trade deadline, is I renew the contracts I can before the trade deadline. That way I know who I want to keep around. So I've offered Connor Sheary, of course, a new contract. Madison Bowie is going to get one as well. My rule of thumb is to offer 10% less money than they actually want. Another contract for Kruger and for Xavier Ouellet. Again, 10% less than what they want. I could squeeze more money out of them, but the disloyal players get offended if you lowball them, and in order to avoid risk, 10% less is basically a risk-free zone where you're never going to offend a player, but you're also never going to be getting a extraordinary deal where you've completely lowballed the player and they're grateful for it somehow. And of course, offering also a contract extension to Jasper Fast. Even there's a few players there that I won't be needing next season, probably. But if I don't have them under contract, I can't trade them during the amateur draft at the end of the season. And I want to have that liberty of being able to send them to a different team if I so choose. So Xavier Ouellet, of course, decides to renew the contract, as does Derek Brassard. As I said, the 10% rule really works quite nicely. You can try and cheap him out at minus 15%, sometimes even minus 20% if you really want to push your luck, but then you also have a much greater chance of really insulting the player, and they'll refuse to negotiate with you for at least a year if you do that. Overtime against the Nashville Predators.
There's nowhere for that puck to go.
Right on the doorstep, and that's picked off.
And my usual play just failed right there.
The Predators move it in. Here's a chance, a 2-on-1. A chance for the
And
win.
my usual play just failed for them as well.
Monstrous save here in overtime. Quick feed to Janssen. Handles the puck. For the win. He scores!
But if you fail, try. And try again.
Team winner!
That's why I love the 3-on-3 of overtime. I do feel that every time we go in 3-on-3 overtime, the advantage is on my side. Now, I don't know if it's related to that loss, but the Predators put Frédéric Gaudreau on the waivers, and I don't, technically speaking, need him. And he's just not quite good enough to make the team. I don't think he actually will ever make the pro team, even though he is able to play in some other pro teams across the league. On the fourth line, I still claimed him. He's going to play in Brossard. And now we move on to a hard-fought game against the Blackhawks. It's been a defensive game so far. And we're starting here in the third period.
Right to the front, makes the save. He scores!
With the cross-crease pass to Elijah Martindale, who scores. What I believe is, come on, tell me the number, his 32nd goal of the season.
Sherry's got it across the line. From point blank, scores! The power play.
Did you see the cross-crease pass? Tired of seeing those yet?
That's a terrific goal, taking advantage of the extra man.
But of course, it's a lot easier to pull off when you've got a man advantage. And when you're a man down, it's a little tougher.
Kruger's won the faceoff.
But still, Elijah Martindale got a 33rd goal of the season in empty nets.
He scores!
And now Raffle just puts a humiliating 5th goal in against Chicago. Things are not going well for the Hawks tonight. And things are just coming up double butts.
And they make them pay.
That's yet another victory for Quebec City. When even the fourth line gets to score, you know things are pretty good.
Shuts them down.
In the following game, we're going against Minnesota, and once again, it's been a tough 1-1 game, and all the way near the end of the match, like the 3 last minutes, Elijah Martindale, 34th goal of the season. He's going to score a lot of goals this season. He's going to get at least 40 by the looks of it. I don't think he's going to get 50, but for a rookie season, that's a lot of goals.
Over the line they come. Breaks up the pass on the defense.
And now they're pulling the goaltender, so who's going to get the empty netter is the question that I'm asking. Which player do I want to see get the empty netter? Well, not their defenseman. That wasn't the play. I mean, that was a really nice play, but it's just so frustrating when it happens with 15 seconds left in the game. They have the empty net, and it works out for them. And now you have that win, and you're going into the overtime, and you're just really deflated. You got to do it all over again in overtime. But again, I always feel the 3-on-3 is an advantage for me, and a rare breakaway, and Johnson slips it in. Giggity. I almost never get any breakaways in All-Star, but circumstances allowed for it this time. Big breakaway for Johnson, and he managed to put it in.
Here in the overtime with the victory. You slug it out for all the regulation. Now you're looking for that one chance to put it away.
And that's yet another win for the Quebec City Double Butts.
And that'll do it for Ray Pearl. I'm James Cebulski. Thank you.
You're welcome. But that's, I don't know how many exact games that the Quebec City Assassins have just won in a row, but it's starting to be quite a bit. Actually, let's go check. The winning streak starts against the Blue Jackets, 6-2. Then we win against Edmonton and all the other teams since. We won in overtime against Nashville. We won against the Capitals, the Maple Leafs, Chicago, and now 12th game in a row we win. And it's against the Minnesota, I was going to say North Stars because I'm really old, but I mean the Minnesota Wild. Now, if you look at who's been playing so well for us this season, as expected, Eric Stahl is just a leader and a playmaker. Martindale has been scoring like crazy. He's up to 34 goals already. He doesn't provide a whole lot of assists, but I guess that's just because the play always ends with him putting it in the net. Mark Giordano, although he's been injured, has got 47 points as a defenseman. And it's just, I've got a lot of good contributions for a lot of players. I mean, Raffle, despite the fact that he can barely make the roster, still nets 12 goals. There's all sorts of players who have been contributing, doing real well. And the team is just going so well. They have a team locker room chemistry of 77%. And they just can't be stopped unless they play Anaheim. And then they can be stopped. And they have been. There you go. It's official. 6-5. And the winning streak ends. The Predators place Ben Harper on waivers. And, I mean, it's been a while since I've listened to his music, but I decided to claim him. Nevertheless, even though I don't need him at all. I mean, just for depth. And immediately, against the Flames, Eric Stahl with an epic goal. His 19th of this season. Will he get 20 this season? I hope so. But I just love this kind of goal. I rarely get to actually score these in All-Star because the computer just won't give you the area to work with. Usually. But this time, Eric Stahl gets to pull it off.
Quick pass to Brody. Moves right to the middle,
and a great little interception there. And then lose it, and then another interception. And that's going to be the setup to the goal for Jace Harlock. But now you think I look like a genius for that back pass with Sheary, but I was actually attempting the cross crease pass, and for whatever reason the puck goes behind instead to Jace Harlock. I'm not sure if the puck deflected or I just failed at aiming my pass the way I wanted it, but it just looks like Sheary does indeed make the drop pass to Jace Harlock, and hey, there's a goal. I'll take it.
Takes the feed at the point. And that one's broken up by a great defensive play. Here's a chance. Scores!
Oh, good shot.
The Josh Anderson wrister, he's been scoring a lot this season. Not a whole lot of assists, but hopefully that means his development will be good, and I hope that I can count on him as a top 6 forward in the coming seasons. I don't know, that's not always the case. That only happened to me once, really, and the other times, basically, he was just a glorified third-liner. Moving on to a later game, another overtime, this time against the St. Louis Blues, defending Stanley Cup champions, the Campeons. And I flat out failed at that pass. Now, this is actually the last game of the season, so I'm putting out the overtime in full so that you can get instead of seeing only highlights, you can get a feel for also the big mistakes I make, or more commonly, the boring plays. But in this case, Elijah Martindale draws a penalty, And that could be big.
Here's the official
That could be big.
The Blues
Looks like
will lose
David
a man,
Perron
tripping the
actually
They're going to be down a man here.
just tripped
Once he
him
gets
right
the
there.
stick into the player's feet,
And you don't
it's
want to
almost
give a
inevitable
power
tripping
play.
penalty will result.
Tough to argue that call. A long 4-on-3 man advantage looms here as we get set to drop the puck.
Oh, here's a
I
gift.
think
the
I can do
power
this.
play in overtime. If you can figure this out and execute just one time, this game goes into your back pocket.
Now, just before this, oh no. Just before this game, the team lost to the Devils, the penultimate game of the season, by a shutout, no less. Well, here he is, new boy to the team, Zach Werenski, scores the final game winner of the season, and the team goes out with a win. And the team locker room chemistry is roughly at its highest point it's been the whole season. Now, I mentioned the team locker room chemistry because you can use that to kind of have a snowball effect, like an avalanche effect, where you can take a team of mediocre players, like average players, but with a sufficiently high team chemistry, they can become your Cinderella team. And this, I suppose, is what I'm hoping to accomplish in the playoffs. But let's look at where they end up after 82 games, and they're 5th in the league, 2nd in their own conference. That's actually quite strong, 101 points for a first season of a expansion draft team. But can we do better than Las Vegas did the previous season? Well, that's going to be, we're going to have to see. But the team, 47 wins. There's been a good amount of goals scored, 270. And the defense has done really rather well with a 280 goals against per game average, promoting Thatcher Demko up from the minor league to finish the season was a good move. Saros was not working. Demko did work, and Comrie and Demko made a good pair. Now you can see 14th in their conference, the Montreal Canadiens. They did fall as expected. They did not want to trade their first round pick. Sadly, could not get that. We got 70 points for Eric Stahl with 22 goals. Martindale got 38. He was really close to 40. 61 points. Mark Giordano with a spectacular season of 61 points in 70 games. Like, you can't tell that he's 36 years old. I will definitely try to trade him. Because he is 36 years old. And he really... This is basically the last year he has any trade value whatsoever. Things that haven't gone as well for some of the other players, notably my defensive defensemen. Obviously, they won't get that many points. I was hoping their plus-minus would be a little better than that, but still, you know, you can't have everything. Down in the AHL, I'm surprised to discover that Rourke Chartier is actually the top point getter of the team. I had high hopes for Sprong, Gurianov, and Samuel Blais. And I still have high hopes that they'll become players that are like basically second line material next season for the pro team. But the Dragons of Brossard have got 60 wins. They finish first in the entire league with 60 wins. And I basically neglected them all season. I didn't look at what was happening. When I have a lot of promising prospects in the farm team, sometimes I micromanage it a little bit. Now this time, since I wanted to have a bigger overview and have time pass faster for this series, I didn't micromanage the farm team. I kind of let them to their own devices. Still hoping to nab Alexis Lafrenière first overall pick for the next draft. I don't think I'll be able to get him at the draft, but maybe I'll be able to get him somewhere down the line. I would really like it because he's the most promising prospect of the Quebec Major Junior League since Sidney Crosby, or maybe Nathan McKinnon. And it's the kind of player you can build a franchise around, especially when that player is basically your hometown boy. And he would be for the Quebec City Assassins, of course. So would love to get him. But there's about, 8 elite players up for grabs in the next draft. Now, our opponents are the dreaded Boston Bruins, the team that has let in the fewest amount of goals like last season. This is really a bad draw for the first round. They have a superb goalie. Their backup goalie is better than our main goalie. And, of course, they have the punch of Marchand and Pasternak, Thornton, and many others who can just score and score. And McAvoy and Shara and company. They have a really big top 4 defenseman. I don't know if we can beat them. I was hoping to outdo Las Vegas, but the match we've got on the first round is one of the 3 most difficult teams we could have gotten. I guess you'll have to see next episode if we can beat the Boston Bruins in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. See you then.
Sponsored by the Flu Crew on Patreon.